For those of you that don't know my amazing husband, he is a speaker, a trainer, and an executive with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He, every day, not only challenges our family, but he challenges businesses and schools, sports teams, and nonprofits to maximize their potential and make a difference. So the simple power of one word is that, just like with cancer, it doesn't only affect one area of your life, it impacts all dimensions: mental, physical, emotional, relational, spiritual, and financial. And we know that there is a word meant for you, and when you find it and you live it and you share it, your life will truly become rewarding and exciting than ever. And so I'm so excited that Jimmy's going to be sharing this with you all this evening. So Jimmy, go right ahead.
And in many ways, and more importantly, help refine and shape you into the person that you're created to be. Today, I'm going to share with you the power of one word. And you know, as Ivelisse mentioned from the start, I personally experienced the power of one word in my own life now for over 20 years. And Ivelisse and I spent a lot of time in the early days trying to figure out this idea of driving our focus, driving our theme for the year through a single word. And we've seen how powerful it can be. We've been on this journey since 1999, Dan Britton and I, and I'll tell you more about that story later, but we discovered this idea of narrowing the focus for greater life change. And that's really what one word is all about. One word is about life change. It's about living differently with a measure of focus so that you're different and you can make a difference. So here's what I know. I know this. I am 100% certain that if you jump in with both feet on this concept that I'm about to show you, I am certain that if you commit to not only discovering your one word for the year, but to also living it out, I promise you this. Couple things. I promise you it will positively change your life. You will live with more clarity, with more purpose and power than even you might have thought was possible. It will simplify things in such a way that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve and become the person that God has made you to be. You're going to get focus, you're going to get motivation to live your best life, to overcome obstacles. And in some ways, and maybe even best of all, it's going to help you thrive in times of challenge and change. You know, I don't know of a single person or family that will live this life, that will go from beginning to end without experiencing challenge and change. It is part of the deal. It's part of the territory. And if you know Ivelisse's story of overcoming 4th stage colon cancer and how one word has helped us through that trial, you know that this is true. And so I know there's a number of different people and types of people that are joining us on this call. You know, maybe you're going through a really difficult challenge right now. In fact, maybe some of you on this call are on your own journey to beat cancer. Maybe you have challenges in your most important relationships. Maybe you're struggling with your purpose or with your direction in life. Maybe a career change. There's a lot of change in the air. And you know, maybe there's some of you on this call who are on a roll, who are living out your purpose. You're making a difference. You're like, yeah, one word guy, you know, show me something new. I guarantee you that no matter what circumstances you're facing right now, I know that one word can be a positive force for God and a positive force for good in your life. And today, I hope that if you don't have your one word for the year, that you're going to discover it. And if you do have your one word for the year, I really hope that you begin to live it out with a new sense of focus and passion so that you can experience everything that God has in store for you as he makes you into his masterpiece, as he designs your life in such a way for your good and his glory. So let's roll. Let's go. Let's discover the power of one word together. You know, I think I mentioned just this idea that we are made to live with purpose, that each one of us has a God-given purpose. We've got potential, which is stored up good that we can do for others. But unfortunately, many of us are in survival mode. And some of you on this call are like, that's me. I mean, if you had seen us driving into the parking lot, if you had seen me running through the parking lot, sliding into the office and getting ready for this call, you'd be like, dude, is one word doing anything for you? Well, I will say this. I will say this. My one word for the year is unstoppable. So by definition, that probably means that I'm going to face a lot of challenges and opposition that are going to require me to remember that I'm unstoppable and to find solutions and ways around that. So scheduling is one of those things, and being where you're supposed to be. So I will say this, we were here on time, ready to roll, even though we were kind of skidding into the parking lot. Many of us, many of you, like me, are in survival mode. Oftentimes, we feel overworked, we feel overscheduled, we feel overwhelmed in some ways. And busyness, that sense that, man, there's just too much to do in too little time, unfortunately makes us stop caring about the things that we care most about. We lose sight of the things that are most important to us. And I remember in the earliest days of walking down this journey with one word, I remember being attracted to the simplicity of it and to the potential that I might just be able to reorient my life in such a way that I live with less regrets and that I experience more joy and life in my everyday. So let me, there was an Australian end-of-life nurse many years ago who was caring for patients who were 90 years or older, and they were within 2 to 3 weeks of the end of their life. And she was the person that was there to take care of them and, connect with them and have relationship with them in such a way that made their passing something that was pleasant, something that was comfortable. And she decided to take advantage of those last days, and she began to start to survey all of the patients that she was caring for who were over 90 years old. And she said this, she asked them one question. As you look back on your life, all 90 plus years of it, what do you regret most? What do you regret most? And here's the number one thing that they said. And in fact, this surfaced on every single person's list. In fact, she went on to note that it surfaced not only on their list, but it was the number one thing on everybody's list to a person. And this was what their greatest regret was. They said, I didn't live the life that I was made to live. Said another way, I didn't become the person I was made to be. I didn't do the things that I was made to do. And when I first heard the results of that survey, it really bothered me because I didn't want to be one of those people that got to the end and said, I didn't live the life I was made to live. I didn't become the person I was supposed to be. I didn't do the things that I was made to do. That end, to me, is very discouraging. So this concept of the power of one word, creating that focus to drive life change so that we become the people we're made to be and live the life we're made to live, became something very, very important. And she went on to ask them, why was it that you didn't live the life you were made to live? And she said this. She said, most of them said they got distracted by the busyness of life. They took the safe road. They abandoned their dreams. They knew what they were made to do, but it seemed risky, so they decided to take the safe approach to life. A lot of them abandoned their dreams early on. Others said this, they lived to please others. And that really concerned me as well. So as we started to walk out this one-word journey and see the life change that was happening in us and through us, it reminded me of a situation with my son, Jimmy, who now is 24, but back in 2015, he was at Liberty University. And his major was in business, largely because I had said, hey, I know you're great at graphic design and you're great at photography and maybe video production, but, business is going to give you the most open doors, the most opportunities. And, like a son under the pressure of his father, he decided to go in and have a business major. And I remember year 2015, I got a call from him in October, and he said, Dad, can I talk for a minute? And I said, sure, absolutely. And I knew something was wrong. And he said, Dad, this business curriculum, it's just killing me. I'm miserable. I don't love it. I don't love what I'm doing. I'm not having fun doing it. And I remember pausing and saying, Jimmy, what's your word for the year? What's your word right now? Can it inform our decision-making right now? And he said, Dad, my word is zeal. And I said, well, zeal, what does zeal mean? And, we kind of talked it through, and zeal means a passionate, energetic, enthusiastic pursuit of something you're passionate about. And I remember in that moment, I said this, Jimmy, you need to change your major. And I could feel the relief on the other end of the line. I could feel the breath of fresh air, like, oh, thank God I didn't have to tell him that I wanted to change my major. We hung up about 4 or 5 minutes after that, and I got an email about 10 minutes later from the university saying that he had changed his major from business to graphic design and video production. And interestingly enough, I believe that the power of his word that year, zeal, helped to lead him on a path where he pursued something he was passionate about. And here we sit, 3, 4 years later, and he just got a job with an organization called Pro Athletes Outreach, which is an organization to athletes at the professional level, which merges faith and competition and builds them up as men and women in their faith. And he's their media manager, using his skill, using his unique design, his zeal for graphic design, for video production, and for social media. And I look back at that moment, I say, well, what if we didn't have one word at that time? Would we have maybe made a different choice? And you know what? I don't know. I do know that God has plans for us and that he would discover his plan for sure at some point. But I do also know this, the simplicity of having that word, the power in the word was it returned our focus to what mattered most, to what God might want to do in his life in that moment. And we made a decision that now I think has changed the direction of his life. And I'm thankful for that. And it's one of those things that as I look back, I say, I know that he is going to live a life more on purpose, with less regret and more reward than he would have if he had chosen another course. So, 20 years ago, this whole journey began. I mentioned that in the intro. 20 years ago, Dan Britton and I were doing life together as young kids out of college. And we wanted to get this life right. I can tell you, we had a desire in the earliest days to have great marriages, to be great dads, to live our purpose, and not to waste our life, and we had probably seen some of that around us. And we were determined to encourage each other to do that. So every year what we did was probably the same thing that most of us have done on this call. We made New Year's resolutions. We didn't have a lot of success with New Year's resolutions, but we kept making them because we felt like that was the thing to do. And he and I would make these resolutions, and we got so frustrated with New Year's resolutions that they wouldn't work that we finally started making game plans. 2 athletes, we got an athletic mindset. Hey, resolutions don't work, but we know if we create a game plan, we might have a shot at making this happen. So we created our game plans, which were extensive to-do lists. And you guessed it, we crashed and burned quite a bit over the course of several years. So when we got our hands around this concept of one word, it really did change us. You think about resolutions. The top 5 New Year's resolutions are the same every single year. Every single year, the same New Year's resolutions get put into place and people fail. In fact, we know that 90% of those who make resolutions fail within 90 days. They abandon that whole thing long before the year end. And I think it's because of this. I think it's too complicated. And I think it's centered around the to-do list rather than the to-be list. So when we started this one-word revolution, we knew that we wanted to create focus around the person, the man or the woman that we were going to become, rather than the things that we were going to get done. One of the things we discovered early on around this process is one word creates laser-like focus, and it lasts. It's sticky. I can remember one word. I can't remember my 10 things on my to-do list. In fact, that's why I keep rewriting my to-do list every day, because I can't remember those things. But I can absolutely remember my one word for the year, and it creates kind of a theme or a rallying cry for the year that I will never forget. And then I tie it to a purpose statement, and I even, in my practice as a Christian, I tie it to a Bible verse so it grows roots in me, and so it brings on more meaning in my life. But simple is powerful. By narrowing the focus, we get rid of all the distractions. We get rid of the complicated approach to life. We drive towards simplicity. and we narrow the focus. And when we narrow the focus, here's what happens. Our sense of meaning and mission improves dramatically. Our sense of focus on a purpose and the things that we're most passionate about, the things that are most important to us, come into clearer picture, because one word drives you toward who you're going to be rather than what you're going to do. Now, don't make a mistake on this. As you start to be transformed into the person you're made to be, you will start to behave differently, right? So if my one word for the year was patience, believe me, a couple things are going to happen. One is I'm going to be confronted with a lot of opportunities to be patient. God's not just going to wave the wand and make me patient. He's going to give me opportunities to decide, will I behave in such a way that extends patience or won't I? So that's part of the process of narrowing the focus, becoming laser-like focused on who you're going to become and getting rid of all of the distractions around you. So let's do this. I would love to just walk through the process with you a little bit, talk about the simplicity of the process, because I know there's some people on this call who have not discovered their one word for the year, or maybe haven't been through this process before. And I'm going to give you a thumbnail sketch about how to do it. So in the next 20 minutes or so, you'll be able to contemplate and consider what are some potential words for you, so that in the end, maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to decide on your one word for 2019. For those of you who already have your word picked, let's use this time to solidify that decision. As I walk you through these 3 simple steps, let's use it to say, yeah, that confirms my decision on the word that I chose for the year. And then we'll begin to create some strategies to live it out. And then I think at the end, we'll even open it up for some time to answer questions as well. Here's one of the most encouraging things before I get to the 3 steps of discovery. One of the most encouraging things that I've discovered over 20 years of doing this is that it changes my life in virtually every single dimension. Spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally. It impacts in a positive way my relationships. It even has made a dramatic change on my career choice and on my financials, my financial situation. So it literally has an opportunity to bring positive life change to all aspects of your life. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 steps. And as we go through these 3 steps, I'm going to reveal a couple more stories about some one-word experience that we've had, and hopefully that will encourage you on your journey. Step number 1. Step number 1 is look in. Look in. The whole process is look in, look up, and look out. Step number 1 is look in. And it's the process by which we go through to prepare our heart to receive the word. You know, I started the talk by talking about how busy we are, how there's a lot of noise in our culture, and you may even have, you know, during this time, you may even have gotten texts or calls or, you know, social media pings or little reminders, and there's a lot of reasons to be distracted. So we designed the first step of this process to eliminate the noise, help you unplug and ask, you know, what are the things that I need most? What are the things that are in my way that are preventing me from becoming the person I'm made to be? What are the things in my life that maybe need to go? It reminds me, back in 2010, my one word was detox. Now, I know some of you are like, man, this guy, he had a drug problem, or, I mean, what's detox? That sounds horrible. Well, the truth is, I didn't have a drug problem, thankfully, and I didn't have an alcohol problem. But at the same time, I had a lot of toxic material in my life that I knew had to go if I was going to become the greatest expression of myself. If I was going to live the life I wanted to live, I knew that I had to detox from stuff. And let me give you a couple examples of that. So as I'm looking in, I'm unplugging from the busyness of life, and I'm writing down the answers to what do I need most? What's in my way? What's got to go? And what I discovered was what was in my way was I had certain health goals, and I wanted to be healthy personally and physically. And I discovered that my eating habits were toxic. And my wife, Evelise, better not be laughing right now, because she's probably like, yeah, maybe you need detox again. I don't know. There's something going on. Chocolate is maybe a weakness. I'll admit it.
Maybe.
Hey, somebody mute her. So what I discovered was I had to look at the things that I was eating and determine if I needed to detox from those things, eliminate those things from my life so that I could experience greater physical health. I realized that mentally I had to stop listening to the negative self-talk that I had rattling around in my head. You know, many of us, in fact, most of us have an inner dialogue where we experience a challenge and we tell ourselves certain things like, oh man, here we go again, or that's never going to work, or I can't make that happen, or oh, here we go, another failure. And we have this inner dialogue. And I discovered that as positive as I am as a person, what I discovered was I had a lot of negative self-talk, and I needed to detox from my own thinking, and I needed to detox from the influences that were coming in from outside. So as you can see, that little word detox had profound changes within my physical health, within my emotional and mental well-being, my spiritual well-being, all of that. And I started to make different decisions. But in the quietness of looking within, I discovered the things that I needed most. I discovered the things that really needed to go in my life. And I started to write down and journal different words that were potential words for that year that could help me become my best, that could help me live out my best year that year. So that's the first step, look in. The second step is look up. Discover your word. This is where we plug in and listen up. Now, John Gordon, Dan Britton, and I, the three authors of this book, we're all men of faith, and we believe that we have been created with a purpose, that there is a designer who has created us with this life in front of us, who has plans for us, and who has a desire to make a masterpiece out of our mess. You know, even in our worst days, our lowest moments, that God wants to take those moments, he wants to convert that mess into a masterpiece. And it's a very personal relationship that we have. And so in this look up process, we really, again, go into that quiet place and we seek God for his guidance in the things that he wants to do in us and through us that year. So the question we'll ask is simple. God, what do you want to do in me and through me this year? If you were to bring life change in me in such a way and to bring focus to my life in a way that I would become the greatest that I can be this year and make the greatest positive impact, give me some words, give me some things in my life that you'd like to change that I could focus on to live that kind of life. And so it's interesting. We all discover our words differently. I hear most clearly from God when I'm working out, when I'm on the treadmill or I'm on my bike. That's the time when I can actually, get rid of the distractions in my life. I mean, even if I'm in an office, there's so many things that can distract me. So I like to have a conversation with God when I'm working out. And I remember many years being on the treadmill New Year's Eve and asking God for that word and just hearing clear as a bell, hey, this is your word for the year. Sometimes I liked the word. Sometimes I thought the word was great. And other years I thought, I don't know about that word. But I went with it, implemented it, lived it out, and experienced great life change. Dan, on the other hand, he doesn't usually get his word on a bike or working out. He usually gets it when he goes into his morning time where he's reading scripture and he's journaling in his journal and taking notes and really discovering, hey, what do I want this year to be? What's the potential that lies ahead of me? That's where he hears his word most clearly. And John, on the other hand, he will typically receive his word doing something crazy like the polar plunge. Now, the first time I heard John did a polar plunge, I was like, man, that's impressive. And when he went and did the polar plunge, I think it was one of the early years that he was discovering his word. He jumped into the ocean at the start of the year on January 1st, and he got hurt actually that year. And his word became clear as a bell, became surrender. That not everything is within your control, and you're better off in that moment to surrender the year that's ahead to God and see what he will do through that adversity and those challenges. So, and then I discovered that he lives in Florida, so I'm not sure that the polar plunge is a legitimate polar plunge. And I don't know that I've ever confronted him on that. So if he sees this or hears this, probably not going to be too happy. But I think the water temperature was around 76 degrees. That's like bath water. Now, I did my first polar plunge this year in 45-degree water, iced over. That's legit. I was only in for about 3 seconds, I'll admit it. But it was exhilarating. We're all going to hear and discover our word in different ways. But the important thing is that we look in and discover what we need most, that we look up and we ask, hey, what are we made to do? Who are we made to be this year? And what one single word is going to help us become that person and do great things this year? Those are the first 2 steps. The third step is to look out. Once you've discovered your word, once you've gone through those initial processes, you'll come to step 3 and you'll look out. And looking out means you're going to live your word out. One of the reasons I think that New Year's resolutions fail, aside from the other reasons that I mentioned, is that we don't keep those resolutions front and center. But it's really pretty simple to keep your one word front and center. In fact, every year for the last 10 or 15 years, the Britons and Pages used to get together on New Year's Eve, and we would get our white canvas boards out with our paints, and we would paint our words on those canvases, those 9x12 canvases, and then we would each go around the room and tell everyone why we chose the word that we chose. You know, what are we hoping that year ahead will hold for us? And we put it on those canvases, then we'll take those canvases and we'll hang them up in our kitchen, 3 or 4 or 6 in our case, on the wall, as a constant reminder of the word that we're focusing on that will bring great life change. And it became a great conversation piece around the kitchen table. We would periodically ask each other, hey, how's your word? You know, your word this year is grow. What ways are you growing? How are you becoming the person you're made to be? And we would have these robust conversations as the kids went through it, as we went through it as a couple. And I've seen this play out over and over and over again. So the key to living it out is, number 1, make it front and center. Number 2 is to share your one word with your inner circle of friends, people who know you best, people that want the best for you, people that will hold you a little accountable and maybe push you to stay focused and to really experience the life change that you want. You know, I found that when I reveal my one word to people, they always look at me like, oh, really? Why? You know, why did you choose that word? And then I'll have an opportunity to remember and reflect, hey, why did I choose it? And then the next question that they'll ask is, well, what are you learning? How are you growing around that word now? So as this movement has grown and hundreds and thousands and now even millions of people have begun to discover their word and then live it out, we've seen these questions coming from everybody. As soon as I tell somebody my word, they're like, oh, what are you learning? How are you growing? And it becomes this built-in accountability to make sure that I'm making progress in the most important areas of my life. I mentioned earlier that we work with a lot of teams, a lot of high school, college, professional teams, and we'll take them through this process. A lot of these teams will create a one-word theme for the year for the whole team, and then each of the players will go ahead and select their words, their individual contribution they're going to make to the team. And you've seen probably pictures on our Instagram or Twitter or on our Facebook or website where you'll see a basketball or a volleyball with all of the words for the players written on that ball. And a lot of times the players will write their one word on their arms and they'll take pictures of that. This has gone viral in the team environment. We've seen families send pictures where they've done paintings or maybe even made T-shirts. We've seen school districts that have rolled it out with their classes, and the teachers they'll make a T-shirt with all of their students' names on it as a reminder throughout the year. Now, one of my favorites of all time was a school district in Texas, in Midlothian, Texas, that allowed the elementary school kids, the 4th graders, to take a ceiling tile out of the ceiling, paint their one word on that ceiling tile, and then put it back in the ceiling. So whenever they walked down those halls, they were reminded of the word and the life change that they were hoping to experience. So that's it. That's the simple, easy process. Look in, look up, and look out. Find out the things you need most. Discover that one word for your life, and then begin to live it out. Keep it front and center and live it out. It has been an incredibly powerful journey for us over the last 20 years, and I'm super thankful to be able to share it with all of you tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. We would like to open it now. If anyone has any specific questions for him that you would like him to clarify or to help you with, feel free to type those in, and we'll just give a couple minutes for you guys to do that. And then we'll have him answer.
So in the meantime, maybe do you guys want to share your one word for the year? What are each of yours?
Go ahead, Evilise.
Okay. Well, this word, my word this year is link, and it's very much close to connect, but I really felt like God gave me the word link. And I think with my kids, half of our kids on the East Coast, I really wanted to be a link to keep our family connected in ways that we could tangibly this year. I also wanted to, a link is also a computer link that you click on. And so we wanted to be a resource for, in Believe Big sense, to patients all over the country and even the world, that, I could help be a link to connect patients with the help that they need. I also wanted to be a link and a source of hope and encouragement to my friends and my family. I wanted to build stronger links with friendships, and especially being here now in Colorado and everything being new. And, having that link with Jimmy and strengthening our marriage and continuing to grow in that area. So every dimension, really helping to, as we say at Believe Big, build those bridges, but also be a link to those around me, to my family. And so I'm excited what this year brings. I'm really excited.
Okay, so instead of going back to my word unstoppable, which is already becoming a huge challenge and blessing all at the same time, I thought I'd go back and, I don't know that everyone knows this story, but back in 2008 when Evilise was diagnosed with cancer, she got a lot of bad news. I mean, we got a lot of bad news from, what was it, August or September? All the way through the end of the year. And it seemed like she had 2 surgeries in that period of time, got a lot of bad news over that course of time. So as we entered into 2009, Evilise felt it was really important that we maintained belief, and her word for the year became believe. And, believing means having faith that the best is yet to come, even in spite of the evidence. A lot of times it's believing that no matter what, we're going to remain faithful. We're going to push. We're going to do everything we can. But no matter what, we're going to trust that God is good and that He has a good plan for our lives. And so that year became the year of overcoming fear. That year became the year of believing in spite of the evidence, in spite of the prognosis. And interestingly enough, of course, it eventually began. It became one of the words of Believe Big, the organization that was originally designed just to encourage patients and their families, that has now grown into an organization that's networking physician groups all over the world, that is in the process of delivering hope, health, and healing and help to those who need it across the world, that is changing the way cancer is looked at, thought of, treated. And we even have a clinical trial with Johns Hopkins, which in the earliest days wasn't even on the radar, wouldn't even have been something that we would have considered doing. And I think eventually this idea of believing big will hopefully result in a healing place, a place where patients and their families can go and encounter healing in all the dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, relational, spiritual. And we're excited about the future. But it all began with the power of that one little word, believe.
Well, Jimmy, and you were a big part of that. And so you helped me to believe. And I think that's why the power of having people in your inner circle, knowing your word and encouraging you, because, in those moments where I didn't feel like I could believe that I could be well, that, and you and family stepped in and helped me overcome those fears and anxieties and set my mind. Look, I'm still tearing up to this day. How the power of that is just impactful beyond measure, really, to believing that you can be well, or believing whatever the circumstance in your life, that God does do miracles and makes changes. But I have some questions from individuals that wanted to see if you could help answer. So one attendee asked, I'm second guessing my word choice, not sure if I should pick another word. How much time do you give yourself before settling on a word?
That's a great question. So here, my only coaching on this is this: be decisive. Okay, so what I've discovered over many, many years of doing this is I almost always have 3 or 4 or 5 words that are super viable words that I think, man, I could pick any one of these. And sometimes I even have a little bit of hesitation around it or confusion around it. I would just encourage you to stick to the word that you picked. And again, this is a word that you're going to journey with over the course of the year. If you feel today, however, that you are compelled to change your word and that you know what that word is based upon our conversations today, based upon what you've heard, then I would just be decisive, pick the word, and from today on, begin to live out that word fully. Decisive or making a decision means that you, by definition, you cut off all other options. That's the word that it's going to be this year. And I got to tell you, the year the book came out, I didn't like my word. I think my word was breathe. And I'm like, such a soft, it ended up being a great word, but at the time I'm like, breathe. Now, how do I even, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to tell people my word is breathe. It just didn't seem very rough, whatever. I'm working out issues, obviously. But I was decisive. Super decisive. And that year, actually, funny thing is the first 3 months of the year, I was having difficulty breathing, believe it or not, physically. And we had to get some certain things checked out. And it was built around stress and life pressures. And I learned to let go. I learned to create margin in my life and to be able to breathe and enjoy things in a different way. So I would just encourage you, if you feel compelled now to change the word, be decisive, pick the word, and then stick it out for the course of the year.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we have another question. They're asking, would you say it's best to analyze, meaning look in, to intentionally search the word, or just pray and wait more passively for the Lord to deliver it?
Okay, that's a great question. And I can't answer that for you, but what I can do is say this. I think everyone is built differently. We're all wired a little differently. Some of us are maybe a little bit more of the proactive push type of people, and others are hey, I'm going to wait, be contemplative, pray about it, and then just wait to receive the word. Personally, I think that there's a balance to those two pieces. Rick Warren says, hey, if you want to hear from God, get near to God. And so there's this idea of pressing in, of asking questions, and then listening. So it's kind of a push and a pull. So I would just say, follow the process according to your personality, according to what feels most right to you. And I think that then your word is going to show up and you'll know it.
Okay. All right. We have a question from our longtime friend, Karen Dubbs. And she said, Jimmy, how do you create a vision statement around your word? Is there a sentence you use?
Here's what I do. I create, and this is just my own personal preference, I create a statement that starts with I will. I will. So for example, I was looking at my word from 2014. My word was connect. And I created an I will statement, which was a purposeful statement. What am I going to do to live out this word? And here's what I said. I will connect with God first, so I connect with others better. So for me, I knew that I was going to be much more patient, much more loving and caring, and connect in such a way that was encouraging and uplifting if I got my heart and my mind and my spirit right before I had interaction with people. So my word of connect was I will connect with God first so that I connect with others better. I would just encourage you to try and run your purpose statement through that formula of I will blank. And I like to say, my other words that I've had, for example, over the course of time have been give, balance, simplify. Simplify, for example, mine was I will say no to good things so I can say yes to great things. So my idea of simplifying was getting rid of some of the good stuff so that I could experience great stuff. But it was, I will say no to the good stuff so I can say yes to the great stuff. That was my idea of simplifying. So it just becomes a kind of a rallying cry or a mantra that helps you stay on track. And it's sticky and memorable, so that you can, remember your word throughout the year as well.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Okay, we have another question, and it says, when you are working on looking in, what do you need in your life, need to remove from your life? What is the third part?
They're all parts of the same question, right? So what do I need most? What's in the way of me so something might be between you and your best life, and what needs to go. Now, I just had a gentleman last week say, hey, aren't those last two questions the same? Yeah, kind of. What's in the way and what needs to go. A lot of times what's in the way needs to go. So it kind of is two questions. So maybe in the next issue of the book, we'll make it two questions.
That's great. That's great.
I hope that helps.
It does. And we had a couple people share their words. We have Judy Flowers who shared hers as together. We have Michael who shared his as contentment. And so those are great words, guys. And so we have another question. It says, what story of one word was the most moving outside of your group of friends?
Wow. Oh gosh, that's a great question. I wanna pull up Twitter right now because we have literally thousands of people who share their stories. I think the stories that, and I can't think of one necessarily in particular, but I will say this: the stories that touch me most are the stories when people share that their one word helped to restore a key relationship in their life. So I remember I presented this concept years and years ago to a men's group at our church in Baltimore. And I gave them an assignment to go home to their spouse and ask them a question. And this was the question I had them ask. What's one word that you think of when you think of me? Now that was a huge risk and I said, ask them a positive one and ask them a negative one, or an area that you could improve. And the guys came back and they said, I never would have known how well my wife thought of me and the gaps that I had to close to make that relationship great. I never would have known it. And that conversation informed the word that they selected for that year. And I would hear back from these men, and this I think was one of the most encouraging things, is when they said, hey, the focus and the power of the one word is in the focus and the intentionality that it creates to make me live differently. And when it restores a relationship, a husband and wife, when it helps to improve a relationship between a father and a child, or a mother and a child, or relationships around you, those are the stories for me that are most impactful, most positive.
Okay, so we have our friend Sandeep from India. He woke up at 5 a.m. this morning to join us. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock over there. And so he sent in this question. It says, what if you feel that your inner self says that the one word shouldn't be about yourself?
I love that. I mean, and that's a great point. And it's like, I can't believe I didn't mention that. Okay. Thank you. Who was that gave that? We need to send him something.
Sandeep from India.
We need to send Sandy something free, like a lot of stuff. The one word in the end is really not about you. So as strange as it seems, the life change that I've experienced and the life change that I want to continue experiencing is really not for me. I mean, in the end, who really cares? I became a great person. Whoop, whoop. In the end, if I become my very best, the positive impact and the legacy that I can leave and the influence that I can have on others is really what this whole thing is all about. It's not about me being great or you being great or you being even your best. It's about you becoming the best person that you can be, so that you can love better, so that you can live with more purpose and mission, so that you can live out a life that greatly improves your community and your relationships and your neighborhood and the world. so that in the end, when it's all said and done, you've lived the life you were made to live, and you've made the difference that you've been made to leave behind. That you've lived that rewarding life, that when it's all said and done, you left this place better. People are better because of the life change in you. So awesome question. I'm a little embarrassed to say I didn't bring that up, but I think in terms of your word this year might be others. It might be encourage. It might be love. I remember back in 2008, my word was love. And man, I learned a lot about what it meant to actually live and love sacrificially, love in a way that put the needs of others above my own. That's the game change. The game change is when the word that you select changes the way you behave, and other people are blessed because of it.
That's awesome. Thank you. We have some people have also typed in their words. So Norma Bosley, she typed in, she said that her word this year is be in the moment, be open to new adventures, be more. Best year ever. Casey Davis says best is his word.
Best.
Best. Mary Croft says her word is trust. Bridget and Cox, she says that her word is forward. Sonia Davis's word this year is triumph. And then Bridget also confirmed that her word is wisdom. So a lot of great words that people have shared.
Great words. Yeah. And every word's going to be great. I love that. Every time somebody tells me the word, I go, oh, that's a great word. And they're like, you say that to everybody, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. And the reason is because it doesn't really matter what the word is, because the word is something personal to you. And I believe no matter what the word is, it's going to bring positive impact and life change, and a positive impact to the people that matter most to you and the world around you. It's been really neat over the years now to present this to different groups and to just share it with people that we care about, and roll it out with companies and organizations and school districts. It has flat out been a blast. And one of the experiences that I love the most in all of this is when I present this concept, and in the audience, I'll say, who in the audience believes that they know their word right now? And what I often do, and maybe I put them on the spot, but they'll share their word with me, and from the stage, then I'll share it. And then I'll say, why did you choose that word? And almost to an event, we'll have people who share their word and why they selected that word, who begin to cry. They get emotional about the word because it's so personal, and it's something maybe that is painful, or something that they need that's good, that they know is going to encourage them, that they know and believe is going to make a difference. So I just want to encourage everyone on the call, discover your word, write it down, keep it front and center, live it out all the way, and trust that this is going to be a year of great life change, and it's going to form a chapter in your life. It's going to hopefully create some new DNA around the word that you've picked, that now you embody that word forevermore. And that's the neat thing about year to year selecting a new word. You'll look back and you'll remember memories. You'll have milestones that you went through. You'll know the refining moments that happened during that year. And if somebody asked me 25 years ago, hey, what were your New Year's resolutions in 1995 or 1993? I would have no idea. But if they said, hey, what was your word back in 2009? I would say my word was train. Let me tell you about that year. This becomes a tool to create chapters in your life, to create real life change and progress you towards your best life.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, again for taking time out of your very busy schedule to bless us tonight and all those on this call. God's going to do great things through all the words we've heard tonight, and people who are continuing to share theirs. I wanted to let everyone know that this call was recorded, this webinar, and so we will be posting it on the Believe Big YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to that, you can go ahead and subscribe to that. We'll also try and put it on our website as well. Feel free to share it with friends and those you know that you think this could help them in their journey in life. And also just wanted to be a reminder to all of you, thank you for supporting Believe Big, and whether your time, your talents, your treasures, and if you have individuals in your life that are struggling with cancer, please know that we are there for them. It's our mission to help patients face, fight, and overcome cancer. And I believe we will see a day where there will be no more cancer. And so we loved linking arms with each of you this evening, and we'll continue to enjoy our things ahead that God has for all of us. So thank you again for joining us, and God bless you all.
Thanks, Evilise. God bless you all.